Okay, welcome everyone. Usually, when we do these deep dives, we're tackling huge topics, right? Things with, centuries of history, mass amounts of data, big complex conflicts.
Yeah, often sprawling subjects.
Exactly. But today, we're flipping that completely. We're going deep on something incredibly short.
Really short.
We're looking at a text you could probably memorize in, what, a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe less. But the sources we have, they all say it basically holds the entire core philosophy for, well, one of the world's major faiths.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The ultimate maybe in theological conciseness. We're focusing today on Surah Al-Ikhlas, that's chapter 112 in the Qur'an.
Just 4 verses.
4 short verses, yeah. And our mission, really, based on the material you shared, is to try and understand why. Why is this chapter seen as the absolute essence of Tawheed?
Tawheed being the core Islamic concept of the absolute oneness of God.
Exactly. And why do some sources even say it's like equivalent in weight or meaning to a third of the whole Qur'an? That's a huge claim for 4 lines.
That's what really pulled me in, that sheer scale. How can 4 lines carry that much theological significance? I mean, it's recited all the time, everywhere.
Very frequently.
But maybe because it's so short, so familiar, the actual, density of its this non-negotiable definition of the divine gets a bit overlooked.
It's possible, taken for granted, maybe.
So that's our plan. Go verse by verse, really unpack the language, the concepts, and see how these 4 statements build on each other to form, well, the absolute foundation of this belief system.
And the sources really do argue that if Tawheed is the cornerstone, then this Surah Al-Ikhlas is basically the architect's drawing for that cornerstone. It defines it.
Okay.
And maybe it helps, for context, Tawheed itself is often understood in sort of 3 main aspects. There's Tawheed Arubiyah, that's oneness and lordship, acknowledging God as the sole creator, sustainer, the one in charge.
Right, the who does what aspect.
Kind of, yeah. Then there's Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah, oneness in worship, meaning all acts of devotion, prayer, hope, fear should only be directed to him. No partners, no intermediaries in worship.
The who we turn to aspect.
Exactly. And third, Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat, oneness in his names and attributes. Believing his names and attributes are perfect, unique, and unlike anything in creation. No comparison possible.
Okay, so lordship, worship, and attributes.
And the argument is these 4 short verses in Al-Ikhlas, they manage to touch on and really define all 3. It's remarkably efficient.
All right, that gives us a great framework. If this tiny chapter holds those 3 pillars, let's start where it all begins, the very first verse, the declaration. So verse 1, it reads, Yerutz, as a money ages to Kirid stand as a Elasiti, which translates to say, he is Allah the one. And the first thing that jumps out is that word qual, say.
Yeah.
It's not think or believe. It's a command, an instruction to speak.
That's a really crucial starting point. The command itself, it means this isn't just a private internal thought. It's meant to be declared, proclaimed.
All out.
Yes. The Prophet Muhammad is being commanded by Allah to state this truth clearly and openly for everyone, for all time. It makes the definition of God something active, public, non-negotiable, not just a philosophical suggestion.
Okay, so it's an active declaration. And what's being declared? He is Allah, Ahad. That word Ahad. The sources really emphasize this isn't just numerical 1.
Absolutely not. And that's probably the critical linguistic point in the whole surah, right at the start. If it just meant 1 in a sequence, like one God among potentially others, the Arabic word would likely be wahid.
Like counting 1, 2, 3?
Exactly. Wahid signifies numerical oneness. I have 1 book, implying maybe there are other books, or I could get a second one. It's one of a type.
Okay.
But ahad, that's different. It denotes absolute uniqueness, indivisible oneness. It means he is unique in his very essence, his being. There's nothing else like him, not even conceptually. It's not one of many or one in a category. It's just one, unique, alone in that state.
So it's like the difference between saying there's one sun in our solar system, which is Wahid, versus asserting a type of existence that by definition cannot have a second instance.
That's a great way to put it. Ahad excludes any possibility of a peer, a rival, a partner, or even being composed of parts. It implies utter simplicity and singularity in essence. Nothing resembles him. Nothing shares his fundamental nature.
Wow. Okay, so this connects directly to that third category of Tawheed you mentioned, the names and attributes.
Directly. Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. If he is Ahad, then his attributes, his knowledge, his power, his mercy must also be unique and absolute. unlike human attributes, right? Humans might be knowledgeable, but someone else could be equally or more knowledgeable. There's comparison.
Yeah, always relative.
But with Allah being Ahad, that kind of comparison becomes impossible. His attributes are perfect in a way that's fundamentally different from any created attribute.
It's interesting because when we think about greatness or power in the world, we always use comparison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this king was mightier than that one. This empire lasted longer. The idea of a rival or someone coming after is just baked into how we understand power.
Exactly. Worldly power is defined by comparison, by potential equals or successors. Ahad completely dismantles that entire framework when applied to Allah. He stands alone. No rivals, no equals, no predecessors, no successors. The very concept of comparison breaks down.
So it's not just rejecting multiple gods numerically. It's rejecting the very possibility of anything sharing his essential status.
Precisely. It's an ontological statement, a statement about the fundamental nature of being. His being is unique. That's the cornerstone.
So this first verse, with that one powerful word, ahad, lays that cornerstone. What's the immediate practical result for someone who accepts this, for the believer?
Well, it directly informs the second aspect, Tawheed al-Uluhiyya, the oneness of worship. If he is truly Ahad, uniquely singular, the only being with this absolute nature, then logically, where else could you possibly direct your worship?
Nowhere else.
Exactly. Any act of devotion, praying, asking for help, making a sacrifice, placing ultimate hope or trust, must be directed solely to him. To direct it anywhere else, even partially, would imply that something else shares in that unique status, which the word Ahad just categorically denied.
Because it purifies the intention. The Ikhlas sincerity which the surah is named after.
Precisely. It demands that sincerity. It dictates the direction of all spiritual energy. Everything flows towards the one who is Yahad.
Okay, so absolute uniqueness established. The next question then seems to be, what is the nature of this unique being's relationship with everything else? With creation, with dependency?
Perfect transition. That takes us straight into the second verse and arguably the most multifaceted term in the surah.
Verse 2, Auto. Allah as-Samad, the translation often given as the eternal refuge, or sometimes the self-sufficient. This word as-Samad seems really, really dense. The sources suggest multiple layers of meaning.
It is incredibly dense, and you're right. Eternal refuge captures one aspect, self-sufficient captures another. Scholars have spent centuries unpacking as-Samad because the classical Arabic root carries several interconnected, profound ideas. It really boils down to two main concepts, often discussed together: dependency and independence.
Okay, let's start with dependency. That feels more immediate from our perspective as created beings.
Right. So one core meaning of as-Samad is the one upon whom all creation depends for its existence and sustenance. Everything turns to him for its needs.
Everything, like literally everything.
Everything, continuously. The sources emphasize this isn't just about asking for things in prayer. It's about the fundamental reliance of the entire cosmos on him. The planet staying in orbit, the cells in our bodies functioning, the very laws of physics holding steady.
So the air we breathe, the food,
The air, the water, the growth of plants, our health, our ability to think, the guidance we seek when we're lost. The sources list these tangible things. Every single need, big or small, physical or spiritual, ultimately finds its source in him because he is as-Samad. Everything is directed towards him in its need.
that's a pretty overwhelming scope of dependency.
It is. It establishes our relationship to him as one of complete reliance.
But you said there were two sides. Dependency is our side. What's his side? Independence.
Exactly. The flip side, and perhaps the more defining characteristic of as-Samad, is his absolute independence. He is the one who depends on nothing and no one. He is utterly self-sufficient, self-subsisting.
Okay.
Some early scholars, like Ibn Abbas, are reported to have interpreted as-Samad using very physical analogies, like meaning solid, without any internal cavity or need, implying he doesn't need intake like food or drink. He has no needs.
So no biological needs, no need for rest, food, water.
None of that. But it goes deeper. He doesn't need help or support or counsel. He doesn't get tired or weak. Think about that first category of Tawheed again, Rububiyyah, lordship.
Right.
If he's as-Samad, he doesn't need co-rulers or partners to manage the universe. He doesn't need anything from his creation to sustain himself or his dominion. His lordship is absolute, precisely because his independence is absolute.
So Ahad established his uniqueness, and as-Samad establishes his complete self-sufficiency and the universe's complete reliance on him. It's like defining two fundamental modes of existence.
That's a very good way to see it. You have contingent existence, that's us and everything else in the universe. Our existence is dependent, it relies on other things, ultimately on him. It could theoretically not exist.
Right, we need things.
And then you have necessary existence, that's Allah alone. His existence is intrinsic to his own being. It's absolute, uncaused, and self-sustaining. He cannot not exist. As Samad captures that necessity and independence, he is the ultimate stable reality in a universe of change and need.
That has pretty significant implications for how a person should feel or act. If he is As-Samad, the eternal refuge.
It completely reframes where you seek security, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we look for security in our jobs, our savings, maybe strong governments, our health.
All of which are contingent. They can fail, they can disappear, markets crash, health fails, systems collapse. They are not As-Samad.
Right.
So realizing Allah is As-Samad means recognizing that the only source of true, ultimate, unshakable stability and security is him. When things feel chaotic, when your personal world or the wider world seems to be falling apart, turning to As-Samad is turning to the only reality that is inherently stable and sufficient.
It's a source of immense comfort, knowing there's that anchor.
Comfort, strength, resilience, it tells you where true power lies. He's the one everyone needs, and he needs nobody.
Okay, so we have unique oneness, ahad,
Yeah.
and absolute independence and sufficiency, as-samad. The definition is becoming very clear, very distinct. But to really seal it off, the Surah needs to address a very common human tendency, projecting our own limitations onto the divine.
Exactly, especially biological limitations. And that's precisely what the third verse does.
Verse 3. He neither begets nor is born. This feels like a very direct, very sharp clarification, drawing a clear line.
It's incredibly direct. It's the definitive rejection of applying biological processes, family structures, or the limitations of created life onto Allah.
Begetting, having children, implies needing continuation, maybe succession, partnership.
And being born Yulad implies having a beginning. It means being caused, being created, having parents. This verse just cuts off both possibilities completely. No origin, no offspring in the physical, biological sense.
Why was this specific statement so necessary? I mean, considering the time and place of revelation.
Oh, it was absolutely crucial. You have to remember the context. Pre-Islamic Arabia had a complex polytheistic system with deities having relationships, offspring. Beyond that, other communities held beliefs about divine figures having sons, or even God having daughters, or gods being born from other gods.
So this was addressing very specific existing beliefs.
Directly confronting them. It refutes the pagan Arab beliefs, but it also stands as a clear corrective to any theology anywhere that attributes literal parentage or procreation to the divine being. It purifies the concept of God from these, frankly, human projections.
How does this reinforce the earlier concepts of ahad and as-samad?
Perfectly. If he were to beget Yalid, he would, in some sense, be dividing his essence or requiring a partner, which contradicts ahad, absolute uniqueness. It would also imply a need for continuation, contradicting as-samad, absolute independence.
And if he were born, Gilad?
If he were born, he would have a starting point in time. He would be preceded by something else. He would be a created being, not the creator. That fundamentally undermines his status as the first, the eternal, the uncaused cause.
So this verse is really hammering home his ontological distinction, his fundamental difference in the type of being he is compared to creation.
Exactly. He's not just more powerful or older. He is of a completely different order of existence, not subject to birth, death, growth, reproduction, or any of the cycles that define created life.
What does this tell us, then, about how we should conceive of his existence in relation to time?
It confirms his eternality. The scholars use the term Qudam, pre-eternality, having no beginning, and also Baqa, post-eternality, having no end. He exists outside the framework of linear time that he created for the universe. He is. He wasn't brought into being, and he won't cease to be.
He is the creator, never the created.
Yeah.
Gives life, but was never given life.
That's the core of it. This verse frees the believer's mind from trying to fit God into a human box. It prevents anthropomorphism attributing human characteristics inappropriately. You worship the transcendent, the eternal, not a magnified version of yourself or your own biological reality.
It brings a certain kind of intellectual relief, doesn't it? Knowing the object of your faith isn't bound by the same frailties.
Absolutely. It allows for a devotion that is directed towards true perfection, not something limited by the processes we see around us. It clarifies the relationship. He's the creator, we are the created. Full stop.
Okay, so unique, ahad, independent refuge, as-samad. eternally uncreated. Lam yulid wa lam yulad. The definition is incredibly tight now. How does the surah conclude? It needs a final statement to kind of encompass everything.
And it provides exactly that, a powerful concluding statement of absolute incomparability.
The final verse, verse 4. Ajminati, IDA. Nor is there to him any equivalent. That word kufuwan, what exactly does that mean? Equivalent, comparable, match.
Kufuwan means exactly that, an equal, a peer, a match, something comparable in status, rank, or quality. It's often used in contexts like finding a suitable match for marriage, someone of similar standing.
So the verse is saying, there's absolutely nothing, no one anywhere that is in the same category or can be considered his equal or peer.
Precisely. It's the ultimate negation of comparability. It takes the concepts from the first three verses, his uniqueness, his independence, his transcendence over creation, and wraps them up by saying, and therefore nothing, absolutely nothing is like him or equivalent to him.
Nothing at all. Does that include like the grandest things we can imagine? The entire universe? Abstract concepts like power or knowledge?
The scholarly understanding is yes, it encompasses everything conceivable and inconceivable. No matter how vast the cosmos, how complex the laws of nature, how powerful any created being or force might seem, none of it reaches the level of being comparable or equivalent to Allah.
So his power isn't just more power, it's a different kind of power.
Exactly. His knowledge isn't just more knowledge, it's a different kind of knowledge. His mercy, his justice, his life, all his attributes are unique, ahad, and without any parallel or equivalent Qur'an in creation, they transcend analogy.
This final statement, then, it must have a really practical impact on a believer's mindset. How does knowing nothing is equivalent to him change things day to day?
It works in two powerful ways, kind of like a samad did. First, it's a source of incredible strength and hope. When you face overwhelming challenges, personal struggles, societal problems, natural disasters, whatever seems huge and unbeatable, remembering وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ reminds you that no created power or problem is ultimately comparable to his power. Nothing can truly stand against him. It puts problems in perspective.
Okay, that's the shield aspect. What's the other side?
Humility. When things are going well, when you achieve success, when you feel proud of your accomplishments or your status, this verse is the ultimate check. It reminds you that no matter what you achieve, no matter how great you might seem in worldly terms, you are still a created being, utterly incomparable to the Creator. It prevents arrogance and keeps you grounded in reality.
Wow. So strength and adversity, humility and success, all from that one line.
It's a constant recalibration.
Okay, this brings us back full circle to that initial, almost unbelievable claim. The virtue of this surah. How can these four verses establishing uniqueness, independence, eternality, and incomparability be considered equal to 1/3 of the entire Qur'an? It still seems staggering.
Yeah, it's a statement that needs careful understanding. It's not about, word count or a simple mathematical reward. The sources explain it thematically. The Qur'an, broadly speaking, covers three main areas of knowledge.
Okay.
Roughly. 1, doctrine or theology, Aqidah or Tawheed, who God is, core beliefs, the unseen. 2, law and ethics, Sharia or Ahkam, commandments, prohibitions, how to live, rules for society. And 3, narratives and history, Qasas, stories of prophets, past nations, parables, lessons from history.
Right, beliefs, laws, stories. Makes sense.
So the argument is that Surah Al-Ikhlas, by perfectly and completely defining the absolute oneness and nature of Allah, Tawheed, essentially covers the entire first category. It is the core doctrine.
Ah, I see. So understanding and internalizing Al-Ikhlas means you've grasped the essence of the entire theological foundation of the faith.
Exactly. You've understood the very heart of the matter. In that sense, its meaning and thematic weight are equivalent to that entire foundational third of the Qur'an's overall message. It's about the centrality and importance of pure Tawheed.
That makes the actions of the early Muslims, the companions, make so much more sense. We read that some of them recited it constantly, like in every single cycle of their prayers.
Yes. There's a famous story of a companion who led the prayer and would always recite Al-Ikhlas after reciting another portion of the Qur'an in every single unit. When asked why, he basically said, "Because I love it. It is the description of the most merciful." And the Prophet Muhammad confirmed that his love for the surah earned him Allah's love.
So for them, it wasn't just recitation, it was a deep connection, a constant reaffirmation.
It seems so,
Right.
like a constant purification of intent. Every time they stood in prayer, by reciting it, they were consciously reminding themselves, this is who I am worshiping, the one, the unique, the independent, the incomparable. It was a way to ensure their worship was pure, sincere ikhlas.
And the final point mentioned in the source is its role as a protection. How does that work? Is it like a charm?
Not like a magical charm, no. The protection comes from the belief it instills. When you sincerely affirm As-Samad, the eternal refuge, and Walam Yakun Lahu Kufuwan Ahad, nothing is equivalent to him, you are affirming that ultimate power and security rest only with him.
Okay.
So you are less likely to fear created things unduly because you know they have no ultimate power. You are less likely to put your ultimate trust in things that can fail. That internal state of reliance on Allah alone acts as a spiritual and psychological shield against despair, excessive fear, and being swayed by lesser powers or illusions. The belief itself is the protection.
Got it. It's the strength derived from understanding that ultimate reality. Hashtag tag outro. All right, so summarizing this deep dive, we started with just 4 lines, and wow, they contain an incredibly complete, robust theological statement. Surah Al-Ikhlas really is about purity and sincerity, Ikhlas.
It truly is.
It systematically lays out. He is absolutely unique, Ahad. He is the utterly independent, self-sufficient refuge everyone depends on, As-Samad. He's completely beyond biological limitations. He doesn't get, wasn't born. And finally, absolutely nothing is comparable or equivalent to him.
A perfect, concise definition. And hopefully this exploration encourages everyone listening, when you recite this surah, which many do daily in prayers, or perhaps before sleeping as is recommended, to move beyond just letting the words flow.
To actually think about it.
Yeah, to actively reflect, to feel the weight of Ahad, the security of As-Samad, the transcendence of Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad, the finality of Walam Yakun Lahu Kufuwan Ahad, to recognize you're renewing your core understanding of the divine each time.
That leads perfectly into our final thought for you, the listener, to take away. Something to maybe chew on a bit. If this core essence of faith, just affirming God's absolute oneness, his independence, his incomparability, is so foundational, so central, that truly meditating on these 4 short lines carries the significance, the meaning, of a third of the entire revelation. What does that tell us about the actual value the faith places on pure, focused, mindful sincerity, Ikhlas, in our deepest convictions?
It's a powerful question. It seems to suggest that the ultimate value isn't necessarily in complex rituals or vast amounts of knowledge per se, but in the absolute purity and correctness of that foundational belief. That sincere, focused understanding as captured in these 4 verses might just be the most crucial element of all. The quality of the core belief is paramount.